let's start with multithreading. So what is multithreading? I guess you people know what is multithreading exactly. We execute things in different threads. We execute functions or methods or whatever the processes we want in different threads. So what is a major drawback if we don't use multithreading on an iPhone? So if it is in normal application, user doesn't know what is happening and it may take large time. But if you come to a mobile device, so if you are doing everything on a single thread, that means the UI activity and the process which you wanted to run behind, it will be a problem and your screen will be freezed for some time. That means it will become unresponsive. Even if you click on a button, it will not get responded because the thread is doing something else and it cannot take the event whatever you have touched on the screen. So what is multithreading exactly in iOS? So we have threads in Objective-C. You can use NS thread object to create an object. You can use POSIX threads, POSIX, POSIX threads. And the most important thing is you can also use C or C++ threads because Objective-C also can run C code. And the other part is queues. So we have queues that can run in asynchronous way. What are these queues? These queues are nothing but a wrapper on this NS thread, so which does everything based on the NS threads. So the API will be different, but the bottom will be based on the NS threads. So if you are directly going to use an NS thread, you have to take care of a lot more things. You have to create an NS thread. You don't know how many threads your application has or how many threads and the OS will give for your application. So you have to manage the number of threads you are creating. So you have to manage the variables. Are they thread safe or not? You have to do a lot of things. But whenever you create a queue and do things on these queues will manage these threads automatically. You don't need to log something, do some modifications on those variables and all those things. So here we have a most important queue that is called as main queue. So this main queue should do only UI stuff. So whatever the user is inputting, it should handle only those events. And whatever you wanted to process, those things should be done on other queues. Nothing but you have to create some other queues which indirectly accesses some other threads depending upon the threads that are given by the OS, and the things are run over queues asynchronously. So by the time, instead of showing a blank screen, you can show a loader on your screen, which will be a better user experience. So why do we need a multi-threaded process basically here? So if in a single threaded process, if you have a single processor and whatever the functions or methods or processor you are giving it, so it will be inside a queue and everything will be run one after the other. So here we will get a time lag before one is run. If you see this picture, so block 1 is going to run first. So by the time block 1 is running, block 1 will be blocked, or there is a time lag before this block 2 is run or executed. So what is the how can we avoid this? It's nothing but go for a multi-threaded process. Here we will have different queues, first queue, second queue and third queue. In this, so whenever you add some objects, block 1 will be added to first queue, block 2 will be added to second queue, block 3 will be added to third queue, and the simultaneous code executions or processes will be added accordingly, which it automatically distributes inside those queues. Now, these block 1, block 2 and block 3 will be executed at the same time, and you will get the results with a great performance, and you will get it very fast. So that is the reason we have to go for multi-threaded process. So how are we going to do it in iOS or Objective-C? So we have two ways. One is using operation queues. So NSOperation queue is also a wrapper. This is Objective-C based, but dispatch queues or GCD, a Grand Central Dispatch API, is C based. So whenever you create an NSOperation queue, you will get all the methods in Objective-C oriented way. The syntaxes will be accordingly to the Objective-C. But if you use GCD or dispatch queues, they will be in C based syntax. So the first one is basically the type is nothing but dispatch underscore queue underscore T. That is the type of the dispatch queue, whatever you created. And whenever you wanted to run something asynchronously, you will be using dispatch underscore async. And you will mention what queue it should be run on, and a block of code, whatever we have discussed yesterday in the previous module. So this block of code will be executed on this queue. So you know that all the UI stuff should be and will be executing only on main queue. Now, how to get that main queue? This is also a queue that is automatically created by OS. You don't need to create a main queue. Only thing you have to do is get it from the OS. So how do you get it? You use this syntax if you're using GCD, dispatch get main queue. And if you're using operations and operation queues, then you have to call a main queue class method on this NSOperation queue class. So both of these will return you the main queue. If you are doing something asynchronously and you wanted to change the UI on the screen, then you have to get this main queue and do it there. If you do it on the same queue, UI may or may not get affected for whatever you do there. So how to create a queue is nothing but its type is dispatch underscore queue underscore T, and give it some name and use the method dispatch queue create. Then you will give two parameters. The last one, no need to worry about it, give it always a null, and the first parameter should be name of the queue, whatever you are going to create it. The actual name of the queue is other queue, but the normal name by which you can differentiate the other queues is the name of the queue there. Now, we have got a main queue, we have got other queues. How do we invoke some methods on main queue? Like, I wanted to update my UI. How can I get a main queue and how can I do that? So first thing is use a normal NSObject method, that is nothing but perform selector on main thread. So what does this method do is, so whatever the selector you give, you know, selector is a data type which is nothing but a string type of your method or a message. So you are going to give a selector, and if you can always mention a parameter if you have any to this method. So this method will run this selector on main thread. You don't need to create a queue, you don't need to use GCD, or you don't need to use operations. You can use this method directly and update the UI or run some code on main thread. Now, if you want to use GCD, then we have this dispatch underscore async method. So this dispatch underscore async method will take a queue. There you are going to give the main queue, and then inside the block of the code you are going to write whatever you want there. You wanted to download a file from a server or some URL. You have a file there and you have to download it. There you have to always watch whether the internet is connected or not and do all those stuff. But instead of that, we have some API which it will automatically check each and everything. That is nothing but getting it asynchronously. So first is NSURL request. This is an object by which you can create HTTP request. So first you are going to create a request and mention the URL there. Then create a configuration. What it is, we'll discuss that. Create a session for that. Create a task. And for the task, you have to call a method download task with request. So whatever the request you have created, that will be used for a download task. And whenever it is done downloading, your completion handler will be called. This completion handler is a block, and if you wanted to change any UI things there, you have to do it there. While creating, you have a method while creating session. So session with configuration, and you can mention a delegate queue. Delegate queue is nothing but on which object your code will be executed. Sorry, on which queue your code will be executed. That is nothing but the completion handler, not the actual one. So the completion handler, we have mentioned the main queue here, and so the completion handler, that is nothing but this block, will be executed on main queue. So sometimes you will not mention the queue there. So if you don't mention the queue there, so inside your completion handler, you have to use the two methods that we have seen. They are nothing but dispatch async using a GCD API or perform selector on main thread. What I will do is, I have collected some images. These are the images from Apple. So they were taken using iPhone 5s. So I will use these URLs. So you can see the images there. So this is the first image with a rising sun. The second image with some children. And the third image is a boy skating. Let me open my Xcode. We'll create a new project again. So let me give okay. I have my main.storyboard view controller. Now what I will do is, I wanted to display these images on my view. So how you can do is nothing but select an image view and assign whatever the image you get it from the internet or the URL, we mention it on the screen. But this image is very big. It might be 1 MB or 1.5 MB. So if your user is on data, it will be very late to download that image. So for that reason, what we will do is, we will use this download task and then show it on the screen. Now let me disable size classes, and here I wanted UI for my first screen. I need to show 3 images and I will have buttons for those 3. Now let me say rising sun, this one, and this one skating. Let me realign them. Now I need another view to show these images. So for that I am going to create a new MVC, that is nothing but another view controller here. So I am having an view controller and I need an image view there. So I will paste this image view completely. Now I need some class for this view controller. So what I will do is I will create a new view controller or new MVC for that. Source Cocoa Touch class. Let me give, and let me name it as image view controller. I don't need an XIB file. And for the target, create. So I have got this. Now I need an outlet for this image view. Let me select it. Control drag it to your interface file. Okay, sorry, we did not change class for this. Now if you will get it, control drag and say image view. Okay, I have got that. Now I need to show something, or I need to show this screen on the click of the button. So what I will do is, let me add a navigation controller for that so I can get back always to my first screen. So go to edit, editor, embedded, and navigation controller. So I have got a navigation controller for that, and I'm not going to give any title for that. So I have my first button. Let me give a segue. So I will push it. I have one connection. So another one, push. I have the second connection, and another one. I have the third connection. So if you want to check it, you can always click on the segue and check which is the button click. Now let me give identifier for these segues. Let me give it photo_4, this one photo_5, this one photo_6. Okay, now we have got this view controller class. So whenever any button is clicked, you will get a call to prepare for segue method. So that is the method which will be called always whenever there is a click on the button, or whenever you are going to push some view. So here I am going to write it down. That is nothing but void prepare for segue. So inside this I have to introspect whether I am going to a correct view controller. So can I do it on the base of identifier? But I am reusing the same view controller class for all the three identifiers. So even if I use an if condition for the identifier, it will be difficult for me to reuse the code. That is why, so I will check what is my destination view controller. So let me import it first, image view controller, and then let me first check segue. So I will have a destination view controller for inside my segue where I am going to push or navigate. I'll check is kind of class and say image view controller class. So this class object will give me the type of the class and I can reuse it. Let me close this. You can have a very good view. Now I have checked it. I am going to that image view controller. Now what should I do? I have to get it and set an image URL to show it in my image view controller. So what I will do is I will just create another variable or a property, non-atomic and strong, and it's a type of NS string. Let me name it image URL. So this image URL, whenever I have to set it from the view controller class. So let me create a so I have to get it from my segue. That is a type of image view controller and segue.destination view controller. So this is how I will get my image view controller, and now I have to set my image URL. So this should be an object of NS URL. You have a method called URL with string. I need a string here. So now I'm going to create a string. So how do I get it? I have a common URL in all my images. That is nothing but up to download I have the same thing. So I will just use this and just replace for each and every button with the identifier. So NS string with format. It will be in this way, download and then %@.jpg. So this will be my actual image URL string. But what should be that %@ argument? That is nothing but segue.identifier. Now, so I'm going to give my string here, image URL string. I have got the string and I will set the title so that I will be able to see what image is that on the navigation bar. Okay, we are done with what is this? Okay, sorry. we have created an NS string, but it should be NS URL. Let us create so that we can use it directly. So you will not have any warnings also. So we are done with transitioning to the other view. Now the main part comes, that is nothing but downloading the image. So whenever I come here, the first method that will be called here is nothing but my view did load. But I have to update my view and call the download method each and every time when there is a change in the image URL. So the main point is that there is a change in the image URL. So whenever there is a change, I'm going to update my image URL. So I am going to customize the setter method of my image URL. So it is nothing but the properties will automatically give you the setters and getters, but we are going to write a setter for image URL. So what it does is whenever an image URL has been set, it will automatically download the image and set the image to the image view. So whenever you are going to access this image URL property, you have to call it using self.imageURL. That is nothing but it calls the setter method. But whenever this underscore image URL is nothing but a private or protected variable which should be accessed only inside the setters and getters while you are managing it. So let me set it to the normal variable which I get it here. So after this, what I will do is I have to start I will say start downloading image, or let us see what happens if you directly set that image. So I will directly say self.image view.image is equals to, so I have to get the image with data, and it is nothing but I am getting data out of that image, getting image out of the data, and that data is nothing but with contents of URL. So this URL is nothing but my image URL. So let's see what happens here. Let me run it on iPhone 6 simulator. I have our applications. Now I said rising sun. So it is taking some time to update the image. If I click on it, okay, let us check if the URL is perfect. So this is where you have to always debug when there is some problem. Okay, you are getting something called null. Let us check what is the problem with seq.identifier. If I print it, you can use PO. It is nil. So let us check what are the identifiers we have given for each of those seeks again. Okay, there are no identifiers. Photo underscore 4 is the first one. photo underscore 5 is the second one. Yeah, we have photo underscore 6. Let me run it again. Okay, even now we are getting the same thing. Okay, what is the problem with this? Okay, I don't know what is the problem. It is not taking the identifier for that. The other two it should be taking, but let me select this because we have a identifier. Great. Let us check the image URL there. Okay, the URL is perfect. Let us also put a breakpoint in set image URL. Okay, we have got it. Is it image URL set? It is set to image view. Okay. The problem is we are setting the image URL directly. Okay, I have a question from Sivaramakrishnan, like we have to call it in view did load. Yes, but this is a setter by which it has to show it automatically. So let me try putting it there. Okay, this should be self-dotting. Yeah, you can see that there is a very big lag. Let me stop this. So if you can see, the UI is stopped for some time. So if I select it, you can see that it is grayed out and it is not transitioning perfectly. So what we have to do is we can do it inside the setter. Let me comment it out. And call a method called start download. So there is no method with that name. So what you have to do here is nothing but check if you have that image URL. So that is nothing but if so you are checking it directly. If you don't have any image URL, it will automatically return you a nil object. So this if condition will be out of the execution. Now let me create this URL request. So I'll use request with URL and give my self.image URL there. Next is I'm going to create a session. Sorry, you have to get a session configuration first. Now get the configuration and then create a session out of it. So session with configuration, and whatever the configuration, that is nothing but config, will give us the session for this download task. And now the main thing is we are going to create a download task. That should be session download task. Let me give it some name and say session download with task with request, and let me give that request whatever we have created. So we also have some method with completion handler. So let me use that completion handler. This request is nothing but my created request. So inside this we are going to create it. If it is not an error, so we are not going to check with if whether we get errors from this download task. So if you get any error, this error will be called. So if there are no errors, and if I have my so if the URL of this request is same as the my image URL, whatever we are giving there, only then we are going to get a UI image and then set it here. So again use the same thing, image with data, and this data is nothing but NS data with contents of URL, and this is not the, sorry, this should be, yeah, local file, that is nothing but location. So we have the NS URL location here. So this, from this location we are going to get the image. So after getting this image, now you are going to set that image back again. Now the problem we did previously was we are setting it in the set image URL setter method. There you don't have your main queue, but here you are going to get your main queue and set the image in that block itself. So will use dispatch async, and my queue is nothing but dispatch underscore get main queue and execute the block here. So the block is nothing but self.image view.image is equal to my image. So we should not use self directly, and that is the reason we will create a weak object and then create it. this self should be weak self. Now you have got the main thread and you have set that image there. Now let us run this. Select skating. So you have that image and you will not be able to see that lag now because we are doing it in, okay, sorry. We did not do the main thing, that is nothing but our task resume. That is the reason we are not able to see that. So this one will start whatever the task we are doing it here. Great. So the image which you get will not be in the main queue and this will be running in a separate queue. If you wanted to check where you are setting each and everything, then you can put a breakpoint there and you can check it. Where is my simulator? Okay, let me go back and say skating. So now this image URL, this is in prepare for sig. I'm not going to worry about that. Even not about this. So this request that is in thread 13, nothing but it is running on a separate thread, and whenever it is done getting it, so this thread, it is called on your main thread. So this is the difference mainly. Whatever the block or the task you are going to give it, that will be on the different thread, and the UI stuff, whenever you get everything, that should be in the main thread.